Okay, today we are going to study about survey research, and survey research has been used in many disciplines and subjects in social sciences. So let's start with the survey research. So survey research is basically uh, it is often used to assess thoughts, opinions, and feelings. Survey research can be specific and limited, or it can have more global, widespread goals. A survey is defined as a brief interview or discussion with individuals about a specific topic. The term survey is unfortunately a little vague, so we need to define it better. The term survey is often used to mean collect information. In survey research, the researcher selects a sample of respondents from a population and administers a standardized questionnaire to them. We have many different examples of surveys in our daily life. For example, exit poll or opinion polls during the season of parliamentary election. Not only so, one of the most entertaining surveys are is the opinion poll through SMS for most sought after contestant. For example, Big Boss or Saregamapa or many such um, reality shows uh, where the host of the show used to pull a survey from you that which of the contestant you like most or which of the contestant you do not want to be in the house. So using survey it is possible to collect data uh, in different sizes of population. This is a very good thing. So there may be a small size or there may be a large size. So it is very for and in survey research. So this survey research, we have already understood that there are certain primary steps like any other method. Uh, and this is very specific and limited, this research is. And it is used all over the world, and it is a very popular kind of uh, research method and mostly used in quantitative research where numbers are involved, scales are involved. So it is a quick way of getting data, and it depends which kind of medium you are using to collect data. So it is defined as a collection of information from a sample of individuals through their responses to questions. So it is basically to form the generalized opinion about a population. So we just pick up a sample which is representative of that particular population. We survey that um, sample on a particular issue or a particular behavior or in any particular event incident, and that is their opinion, their feeling. So please remember that survey is not done haphazardly. There should be some issue, opinion, there should be some issue or individual opinion about the individual or opinion about the uh, event, incident, or incidents of place. um, so, so many things cannot be clubbed together in a particular survey. So then there are types of survey research. So it can be categorized into two: longitudinal survey and cross-sectional survey. So longitudinal survey is conducted through a timeline. Maybe when you are watching a particular sample over the period of time. Um, so it may be 2 years, 3 years, or few months. When a duration is involved, and with passing days and months and year, you are or you are taking the opinion from a particular sample. So it is a respondent behavior, preferences, attitudes are observed constantly over time to analyze reasons for change in behavior or preferences. So it is very interesting when you find that with the time how the opinion and feeling is changing or forming. Then the second one is the cross-sectional survey, which we use very often, and it is a very popular and very easy way of doing it. It is to collect data to make inferences about a population of interest at one point of time. So it is not over a time, but it is one point of time. Researcher is collecting data about the opinion or feeling about a particular place, individual, event, incident. Mm. So this is cross-sectional survey research. Then why we should be conducting survey research? So there are three main reasons to understand respondent behavior in general. So it is not about individual respondent. It is the behavior by and large about the population. So when we are picking up a or choosing a sample or selecting a sample which is representative of the population, and from that sample we infer about the population. Second reason is platform. It is the platform for respondents to provide opinion. Otherwise, there are many respondents. They have many opinion about or varied opinion about a particular um, uh, behavior. So this is the one when you consolidate the opinions ab- about a particular thing, um, about a particular population, and then you can infer in general what is the opinion about the population. For example, when we are having our parliamentary elections, so we conduct exit poll or opinion poll. So basically, on an average, it is showing that uh, which uh, uh, it is showing that mm, who is going to be the chosen one uh, to form the government. So this is a platform. And the third reason is to form a general opinion about an incident, place, object, or individual. So it is very, very easy to do it, to consolidate. Um, then you need the survey research. I think this is the most uh, effective way of generalizing the opinion about the population. So there are processes of survey research. So there are mainly the process involves five steps, and these are the deciding the type of surveys, and then deciding the questions, and then uh, finalize a target population and medium of survey, analyze survey results. So let's start with how we are going to conduct a survey research. What are the process altogether? So deciding type of survey. So first you have to find out or you have to decide depending upon uh, uh, what kind of survey or what kind of objectives you are having. So, depending upon the objective of your research, you will decide whether it is going to be cross sectional research or whether it is going to be a longitudinal research. Then, what kind of question it should have? So, again, we will go back to the objective and we will see that what is our objective and what is our need of the study, and on the basis of the need of the study and objectives, mm, we are going to frame the question. So this may be open-ended question where respondents are free to write um, about their opinion. and there are close-ended questions. And close-ended questions are those where a set of possible responses are given. So respondents cannot go beyond these fixed set of responses. Then Likert scales, we have semantic scales, then net promoter score questions. So generally net promoter score questions are used in business administration or business management researches where a single question decides the further questions. The third step of this process is to finalize a target population. So this is again, you have to go back to the objective, and you will decide that uh, actually who are going to be surveyed. So population has to be defined in uh, clear terms. For example, whether you are going to take this for primary level students or elementary school students or maybe teachers. So it has to be defined in dotted line. The fourth step is medium of survey. So when you are deciding upon the questions, that which kind of question you are going to take during survey research, it will again uh, lead you to prompt you to understand that uh, what may be the medium of survey. So it may be paper pencil test, it may be over phone, or it may be over it may be a email, or maybe Google form, it may be interview, online questionnaires, and many more. Last step is to analyze survey research. So once you collect the data, you have to analyze those results. It may be qualitative, it may be quantitative, or it may be mixed. So on the basis of what kind of data you are collecting, uh, you have to uh, analyze those data to reach at the results. Let's start with the methods of survey. So there are two or three types of survey: um, written survey, oral survey, and the uh, third one is electronic survey. So sometimes we take this electronic survey under written survey as well. But we will discuss it in this presentation. So let's start with the mail survey. So mail survey allows you to sample a very broad group of subjects at small cost. Initially, mail survey was through postal mails. Later, electronic platform was replaced the postal mail. And like any other methods, it has its own strengths and weaknesses. Let's discuss. Um, like if we discuss first the strength, so first strength is the cost. Mail surveys are low in cost compared to other methods of surveying. This type of survey can cost up to 50% less than the self-administered survey and almost 75% less than a face-to-face survey. Um, and it is convenient too. This is the second strength. Since many of these types of surveys are conducted through a mail in process, the participants are able to work on the survey at their leisure. Whenever they feel like, when they are not occupied, they can mm, respond to your survey. And the third most important uh, strength is the low biasness. There is little chance for personal bias based on first impressions to alter the responses to the survey. Um, so we have so far discussed the strength. Now let's discuss the weaknesses. So weaknesses is the one very concerning weakness is low response rate. It has self-administered method and which is a low response rate compared to a telephonic survey or a face-to-face survey. The mail and written survey has a response rate of just over 20%. Because many a time respondent do not revert you back with their responses, filled questionnaire, or um, maybe the through postal mail or electronic mail. Mm, Ability of the second one is in weaknesses, ability of respondent to answer survey. So these are the self-administered surveys, and they have the weaknesses like, or it has some problems like assumptions about the physical ability. You cannot assume because it the questionnaires are going or it is conveyed across postal mail or electronic mail. So not always you are knowing whom you are sending to. So you cannot assume about the physical ability, literacy level, and language ability of the respondents. Because most surveys pool the participants from a random sampling, it is impossible to control for such variables. The second one in written survey is group administered survey, and we many a time use this kind of survey in our research. Like the whole class um, is given the questionnaire at a time in the classroom, and the group sit and respond to your questionnaire. So the group administered questionnaire would allow us to get our survey results in one space of time. It ensures the responses in bulk at one time administration. Uh, Usually, this type of survey is the responses taken in writing. And it has also its strengths and weaknesses. We will discuss it one by one. So let's start with the strengths. So first strength is the rate of response. It has very high rate of response because at one point of time you are getting a whole group and you do not have to prompt please give me back my response sheet. So generally it is administered to a sample of respondents in a group setting, hence it is guaranteeing a high response rate. The second important strength is its specificity. This type of written survey uh, gives more option for item or question construction, allowing for open and closed-ended questions of um, and can serve a variety of specific purposes, particularly if you are trying to survey a very specific group of people. And if the researcher is like he himself is or herself is there in the classroom or in the place of survey, any problem related to the response, uh, the researcher or the surveyor can solve it or can clear it. And in written survey, the third type of survey we are discussing now is drop off. So drop off survey. So it is not always used, but it is very effective type of survey because not always the respondent is willing to respond to your questions, willing to participate in your survey, and not always um, you are sure that you are going to get a um, good number of respondents in your survey. Maybe your problem of research is such that it requires reach out to many people, and you are not sure that you can conduct any group administered survey or you can send them across some email or postal mail. So let's start with a drop of survey. To ensure the highest and sure response rate, the researcher may drop off to a time of availability. Whenever respondents give them time, they reach out to respondent. When most of the respondents would remain present at a particular place. For example, if you want to survey some undergraduate students or postgraduate student, and this can be from the university or the college, and you are not sure that when most of the respondents will be available. So what you can do, you can go to the canteen at um, at any point when you know that this is the break time and students are going to have their lunch or snacks in the canteen. So if you drop off there, and you will find that many students are there because this is a lunch time or this is a break time. So you can meet them, you can update them about your research, and they may be willing in a large group to participate in your survey. Um, or maybe in a hostel during when they are coming back from their college or university. This technique can be used when we do not have time for conducting interview one by one at different respondents at different places. When you are conducting interview, it is not written test. You cannot send across through postal mail or um, email, and it is not uh, like group administered when you are distributing the questionnaires to a group and they are sitting and answering to your survey. You have to take interview. So it is very time consuming reaching out to each and every student. So it would be nice that if you drop off to college canteen or dormitory when they are available, you are sure that they are available in a large group. Next type of survey is oral survey, because we have already spoken that we have categorized methods of surveys in written survey, oral survey, and electronic survey. So let's start with the oral survey. Mm, so before we start the oral survey, we have to discuss some strengths and weaknesses of the drop-off survey also. So weakness we will discuss, because before discussing weakness, we should talk about the strength of drop-off survey. Convenience. The drop-off survey allows the respondents to answer the survey at their own convenience. It allows the second strength is response rates. It allows the interviewer to make personal contact with the respondents, to explain the importance of the survey, and to answer any questions or concerns the respondents might have. Uh, Now we will go back to oral survey, which we started, and um, we then again resume to the drop off. So oral surveys are considered more personal forms of survey. Oral surveys are generally used to get thorough opinion from the respondents. More familiar form of surveys is the face-to-face survey and the phone survey. Um, the strengths of weaknesses of surveys, if we discuss, let's start with the strength. So first strength is the personal contact because you're meeting the person. Oral surveys give the interviewer the ability to get answer questions from the participant. If the participant does not understand a question nor needs further explanation on a particular issue, it is possible to converse with the participant. Second strength is response rate. The researcher has more control over the response rate in oral survey research than with other types of survey research. So you are in personal contact. You You can have the or you can form a comfort zone for um, the respondent. But it has lots of weaknesses as well. For example, cost. It takes time to collect enough data for a complete survey and time to translate. And it has biasness also. Using face-to-face interview for your survey may also introduce bias. It may be from your side or it may be from respondent sides. From either the interview or the interviewee. Um, Types of question. This is one of the most important uh, weakness of the survey research of this oral survey. Certain types of questions are not convenient for this type of survey, particularly for phone surveys where the respondent does not have a chance to look at the questionnaire. They cannot think when you are talking with them or asking the question. They have hardly the space to think about the question and then respond. Attitude. Anyone who has ever been interrupted by a phone interviewer is aware of the negative feelings many people have about answering a phone survey. Upon receiving these calls, many potential respondents will simply hang up. They do not feel like responding, they just keep down the phone. Electronic survey, which I told you earlier that nowadays it comes under mail survey, but we will discuss it. With the growth of the internet and in particular the World Wide Web and the expanded use of electronic mail for business communication, the electronic survey is becoming a more widely used survey method. Electronic survey can take many forms. They can be distributed as electronic mail message sent to potential respondents. They can be posted at www forms on the internet, and they can be distributed through publicly available computers in high traffic areas such as libraries and shopping malls. In many cases, electronic surveys are placed on laptops and respondents fill out a survey on a laptop computer rather than a paper. So, like the previous methods of survey, it has also strengths and weaknesses. Let's start. So, first we will discuss strengths. It is cost saving. It is less expensive to send questionnaire online than to pay for postage or for interviewers. Ease of editing or analyzing. It is easier to make changes to questionnaire and to copy and sort data. It has faster transmission time. Questionnaire can be delivered to recipients in seconds rather than a days or as with the traditional mail. Easy use of pre-letters. You may send invitations and receive responses in a very short time and thus receive participation level estimates. High response rate. Research shows that response rates on private networks are higher with electronic surveys than with paper surveys or interviews. More candid responses. Research shows that respondents may answer more honestly with electronic survey than with the paper surveys or interviews. Potentially, it is potentially quicker response times with uh, wider magnitude of coverage. Due to the speed of online networks, participants can answer in minutes or hours, and coverage can be global. So let's start the weaknesses, and it has many weaknesses as well. It has sample demographic limitations. Population and sample limited to those with access to computer and online network. It has lower levels of confidentiality. Due to the open nature of most online networks, it is difficult to guarantee anonymity and confidentiality. Then it has layout and presentation issues. Constructing the format of a computer questionnaire can be more difficult the first few times due to a researcher's lack of experience. It has additional orientation instruction, more instruction and orientation to the computer. Online systems may be necessary for respondents to complete the questionnaire. Potential technique problems with hardware and software. This is very important. At least I face it. As most of us, perhaps all of us, know all too well, computers have a much greater likelihood of glitches than oral or written forms of communication. And maybe it has response rate high, uh, but research shows that it that response rate higher only during the first few days. Thereafter, the rates were not significantly high. And you have also to push the respondent and send alerts and alarms and humble requests to the respondents to respond your questionnaire. So now we will discuss the designing surveys. So how we can design, like overall design issues are there, then creating questionnaires are also there. So two designings are required when we are designing the survey. So let's start with overall design issues. So overall design issue, like four key issues should be considered when designing a survey or questionnaire. uh, Respondent attitude, the nature of the items on the survey, the cost of conducting the survey, and the suitability of the survey to your research question. So let's start with the respondent attitude. When developing your instrument or the questionnaire, it is important to choose the appropriate method suitable for your research. Ask yourself what kind of survey you as a respondent would be most apt to answer. This is very important because you are actually stepping into respondents' shoes. Nature of questions. It is important to consider the relationship between the medium, whether it is phone call or whether it is paper pencil test or electronic medium, that researcher use and the questions to be asked. For instance, certain types of questions are difficult to answer over the medium chosen. Not everyone is comfortable when surveyed on telephone. They may feel shy, they may take time to open up. Um, then cost. Planning a survey beforehand will ensure the effect of cost for the population under consideration, the geographic distribution of this sample population, and the type of questionnaire to be used. Uh, Ability of instruments to meet needs of research question. There needs to be a logical link between survey instrument and research question. This is very important, and this should be the first one when we are designing uh, the survey. Now there are certain things which requires to be addressed when we are designing a survey. Creating questionnaire. So researchers should carefully consider the type, content, wording, and the order of questions that they include, open and close-ended. All researchers must make two basic decisions when designing a survey. They must decide whether they are going to employ an oral, written, or electronic method, and whether they are going to choose questions that are open ended or close ended. So, if close ended questions limit respondents to answer to the survey. The participants are allowed to choose from pre-existing set of answers. Uh, op- they are not given the options to answer their own. Open-ended questions do not give respondents answer to choose from, but rather are phrased so that respondents are encouraged to explain their answers and reactions to the question with a sentence, a paragraph, or even a page or more, depending on the survey. There is one more issue when we are going to create a questionnaire, and which is the part of the designing survey, that is format of the survey. So it may be rating scale, ranking scale, magnitude estimation scale, split or unfolding questions, funneling questions, inverted funneling questions, factorial question. So there are many. Uh, we will discuss one by one. For example, in format, it may be rating scale. It asks respondents to rate something like an idea, concept, individual, program, product, etc., based on a closed ended scale format, usually on a 5-point scale. Ranking scales, this is one of the type of scale, and these are more difficult to use than rating scales. Hence, they may actually increase appropriate effort from the respondents. One more type of scale, magnitude estimation scale. Please remember all these scales are coming under format of the questionnaire. It is asked to respondents to provide numeric estimation of answers. These scales are very difficult for respondents. However, these scales have been found to help increase variance explanations over ordinal scaling. One more format of questionnaire is split or unfolding questions. It is to begin by asking respondents a general question and then follow up with clarifying question. One more format we will discuss, funneling questions. Research guides respondents through complex issues or concepts by using a series of questions that progressively narrow to a specific question. So first you are asking too many questions and gradually you are narrowing down to a particular question. So basically you are bringing the respondent down to the point of concern. The researcher can start asking general open-ended questions and then move to asking specific close-ended forced choice questions. So it is like funnel. It has a wide mouth and finally it has the narrower one. Inverted funneling question, this is one more format. In inverted funneling question, researchers ask respondents specific close-ended questions first and then ask more general open-ended questions. So in this question, uh, unlike the funneling question, the most specific question is asked as opening one. Last we will discuss as the format of questionnaire is factorial questions. Researchers use stories or drawings to study judgment and decision making processes. A little is known about how this survey question technique compares with other techniques because it is a kind of difficult kind of survey research and generally used in projective type technique. So after discussing the format for creating questionnaire, we will move to wording of the question, because when we are designing the survey, we are creating questionnaire and we have fixed upon the format. Now we need to know the wording of the questions. To write effective questions, researchers need to keep in mind these three important techniques: directness, simplicity, specificity, and discreteness. Questions should be written in a straightforward, direct language and should be specifically tailored for a group of respondents. Questions should be kept short and simple. Specific questions are for the most part better than general one. Mm, the more general a question is, the wider the range of interpretation among the respondents. To keep specific questions brief, researchers can sometimes use longer introduction that make the context, background and the purpose of the survey clear, so that this information is not necessary to include in the actual question. Avoid questions that are overly personal or direct, especially when dealing with sensitive issues. So please be alert about the ethical issues involved in survey research. Then, after wording of the question, we will discuss how the content of the question is designed. Does your question of open or close-ended questions lead to the types of answer you would like to get from your respondents? Is every question in your survey mm, integral to your intent? Does one topic warrant more than one question? Do you give enough information for each set of questions? Are the questions general enough? Is there any question without leaving out essential information? So the next one is order of questions. So once we have decided the content of the question on the basis of these questions, when we are designing the survey, as such there is no such thumb rule about the order of questions, but we there are some quick tips to order the question. Use warm-up question. Easier questions will ease the respondent into the survey and will set the topic of the survey. Sensitive questions should not appear at the beginning of the survey. Consider linking question that make logical links with the another question, the subsequent questions. Try not to mix topics. Try not to put the most important questions last. Respondents may become bored or tired before they get the end of the survey. And one very important thing, don't make questionnaire too long. There will be a mental fatigueness if the question is too long. So first few question they enthusiastically answer, and then uh, they will feel bored. And sometimes they try to um, see what the other group is writing, like other members of the group they are writing. If you are using a combination of open and close-ended questions, start with close-ended ones. Conducting survey. So while conducting survey, um, there could be written survey, there could be oral survey. So for administrating written surveys, that include in each questionnaire a letter of introduction and explanation and a self-addressed um, note if it is over postal mail or electronic mail. And please follow up the respondents, not always they are giving you back the responses. Mm, then we have administrating the oral surveys. The oral surveys are face to face surveys, and phone surveys or maybe some other way, but phone surveys are the one for oral surveys. Uh, in face to face surveys, the interviewer should be well acquainted with the questions and have ample practice administrating the survey with mock interviews. In phone survey, they involve all of the preparedness of the face-to-face surveys, but encounter new problems. It is much easier to hang up on a phone surveyor than it is to slam the door in someone's face. Strengths and weaknesses of survey research. So, like many other methods, we have discussed um different types under survey research, but we need to discuss the strengths and weaknesses also. So, strengths we will discuss first. Um, Surveys are relatively inexpensive. Surveys are useful in describing the characteristics of a large population. They can be administered from any locations using mail, email, or telephone. Very large samples are feasible, making the results statistically significant. Many questions can be asked about a given topic in one questionnaire. Standardized questions make measurement more precise by enforcing uniform definition upon the participants. Usually, high reliability is easy to obtain. And then the weaknesses. Surveys are inflexible in that they require the initial study design to remain unchanged through the data collection. The study design, that means the tool and the administration of the tool. The researcher must ensure that a large number of selected samples will reply. So they cannot go on in assumption that they are getting large number of reply. It may be hard for participants to recall information or to tell the truth about a controversial question. Cannot identify the individual case in the statistical analysis. Can seldom deal with context. That means it cannot analyze the context every time. In survey research, there are certain ethical considerations. We need to be very careful about these ethical considerations. Um, there are five ethical issues researchers should consider if they choose to use surveys. Sample representatives. There should be an ethical obligation to use population samples that are inclusive of race, gender, educational, and income levels. Data analysis. Researchers do not necessarily know exactly who has responded or identity of the respondent. Confidentiality versus anonymity. A response is never truly anonymous. Researchers are ethically required to guard the confidentiality of their respondents. and to ensure respondents that they will do so. Responsible quotation. It is considered acceptable for researchers to correct typographical or grammatical errors before quoting respondents, since respondents do not have the ability to edit their responses. Unrecognizable individual cases, because uh, survey research is to form generalized opinion, it often do not consider the individual cases. There are certain source and reading list you may consider, and I have prepared this presentation using these sources. Thanks, and please keep your queries posted in comment box. Thank you.